Alec Tackmann here with GoAndPractice Book 2. We're looking at page 12, dealing with drags. We're going to go through the exercise in the book and also just talk a little bit about drags themselves as a rudiment. So this topic was introduced in the first book. This is kind of like one of the first rudiments you learn as a player. But I thought it also just deserved to be mentioned in book 2 as well, because it's so important, I think, to play this one, to play it well, and to know the many different ways to play it. So drags can mean a lot of things depending on what situation you're in. When someone asks you to play a drag, or you see it written in the music, the two little 16th notes in front of a quarter note, for example, that can mean a lot of different things. So you want to know how to do them all, but really it's up to which version you want to put out for whatever musical reason. Or if you're in like a band setting, meaning like a concert band, orchestra, it might mean what the director wants you to do. Or if you're in a drum line, what your drum coach wants you to do, or a section leader. So be used to all different interpretations. And if anyone ever comes at you saying it's this way or that way, that's the law, I'm sorry, they're wrong. That's just, there's so many ways to do this thing. And what's confusing about it is, and I literally have books that have opposing published views on what the words are. I think the term drag and ruff get used interchangeably, depending on when the book was written or when people are talking. So for this book's purpose, I'm using kind of more of the modern interpretation of what we mean by a drag, which is a double stroke going into a single, or a buzz stroke. It's more like the little kind of tight sounding one versus the open one. Sometimes you'll see it like with an additional tap after it. That's kind of the old way of doing it. And then they'll call the ruff this, but today a ruff is, I think, something different. It's done with single strokes, and that'll be on another page, another video. So that will be a ruff. So for now, anyway, drags as we call them today, and the different interpretations of it. So if we look at number 1, this is just the simplest, stripped down way to practice a drag. We're just going to play the rhythm 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4 with a double stroke on the 16th notes. And flip it backwards. You want this to still sound as if you're just playing 1 and 2. You should not hear the difference in that. So now, if you're going to see it in a piece of music written like that, because the sticking of left is written on top of a rhythm 1 and a, don't feel like you need to make it stiff. If you got to do that for it to sound smooth, fine, but you can still do a little bit of a bounce. But because it's called a bounce, it doesn't mean it has to be this kind of sloppy mess thing. So it should still sound like the original rhythm. Number 2 is going to kind of give you that gallop sound. You hear this done actually like in a lot of marches. So we're just going to have 1. Go ahead and flip that and play it left-handed. This would be number 3. If you're just starting off, I think a good easy little exercise, this isn't in the book, but noodle around with the William Tell Overture. Just play that on the drums. And however quick you play, you should still be able to hear that melody. And then you can start with the other hand. And then just, play it forward and backward, play different speeds. You just mess around with it. Again, play it on dull surfaces, all that stuff we talked about earlier. Looking at number 4, now we're going to get into the different interpretations of this. In number 4, we've got our traditional symbol for doing a drag. 2 little 16th notes, mini font, tied to not always tied. It depends on what music you're looking at, but it means the same thing. Tied to the primary stroke, which is the quarter note. Okay, so the two mini little notes, the grace notes of the drag, are usually not to be counted when they're written like this. They mean to play 1, or you can buzz the grace notes. Sometimes, when you see it written that way, it means to put 30-second notes right before the primary stroke. We'll get into that a little bit later on this page. Again, there's a lot of ways to do this. If you're playing, like, say you're in a concert band or orchestra, and you're the only snare drummer, you'll probably just want to play the double version, where it's just uncounted grace notes. The primary stroke note still needs to land where it should, though. Or the buzz way. If you're playing with more than one snare drummer, the same part, so this would be like a marching band, then you want to interpret it the other way, because you need a common goal that everyone can aspire to. If everyone is just playing that, it's going to sound like a mess. It has to have a value. So again, there's a couple different ways to do this. If you look at number 5, this is another part of getting used to drags, is sometimes you have to cram them in very small spaces. So like number 5, you just got to suddenly play it on beat 3. And this shows up all the time in orchestral music. You just have to make it work. It seems impractical, but it's cool when you get it down. So number 5 is the beginning of that. Number 6 is just a good little warm-up for getting used to alternating your drags. It's trickier to do this than you would think. This is also a good exercise for your paradiddles. We'll talk about this one in another page, but it's just alternating. And then if you look at number 7, it's almost the same thing. Now if you want to open this up to playing it in a rudimental style, you can hear the difference. Those are now in time. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. Tighten it up a bit. Now the grace notes are not in time. And then super smash it down and buzz them. Different style. Number 8 is going to be the same deal. We have a steady string of eighth notes happening with these random, seemingly random drags shoved in there. So when you're playing this one, really make sure that no matter what you do, by the end of it, this core rhythm of just eighth notes happening is still what you hear. Don't let those drags slow down what the rhythm should be. So if you're playing number 8, you're going to have throughout all that, you still just hear 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 9 is the same thing, getting used to playing the drag in tiny little spaces. Number 10, this is a common rhythm that you're going to see in rudimental figures. So if you look at this one, our initial rhythm is just 1 and a 2, and the grace notes of the drag are sitting in that little spot where the E of the beat should be. So we play 1 and a, we jumped over the E, but that's where the grace notes lie. Again, you could play this one 1 and a 2, like that. The rudimental way to do this would say, well, we're just going to do a double stroke on the E of the beat, so that would actually make it like 2 30-second notes. That would sound like this. Again, it's a different interpretation. So you want to know the many ways to do it, different ways to do it. You want to know like what's appropriate for which setting, when you need to listen to who's in charge, or when you get to decide which one that you want to do. They're all valid. They're all music. It's just art. Lots of ways to play this stuff, but like know the ways to do them. This is a tricky little rudiment here, but it's a good stepping stone into playing double strokes also. And buzzes, I think. You know, after I teach someone how to play a flam, Usually I'll just show them drags next. Like it's just like we'll buzz the grace now. Okay. We can start doing some doubles. We'll do the William Tell thing. And then from there we segue into like a 5-stroke rule. And so, but yeah, drags. These things are classic. They're all over the place. They're cool. Anyway, if you got questions on it, let me know. Again, this is book 2, Go and Practice by me, Alec Tackmann. Check out books 1 and 3 also. Any questions, let me know. Thanks for checking out the video, and see you on the next one.